None of the ancient texts specifically mention this type of pump in Babylon. It was used, however, by another ruler, Sennacherib, king of Assyria. His capital was at Nineveh on the river Tigris, northwest of Babylon.
Sennacherib made some enormous engineering works to divert the water from mountain streams and bring it together along a huge aqueduct across the valley to Nineveh. The people of Assyria were used to large gardens in cities because previous kings had done something like what Sennacherib did. And Sennacherib says in his own inscriptions that the gardens and his palace were a wonder for all peoples. So I suppose he hoped that people would come and admire them, and there's no doubt he was very proud of the technical innovation which made his garden different from that of his predecessors.
New studies of the location of Nineveh place Sennacherib's gardens close to the entrance of his palace on the bank of the river Tigris. It is possible that in the intervening centuries the two sites became confused and the hanging gardens were attributed to Babylon.
I'm now fairly happy with the idea that the gardens did really exist, but at Nineveh rather than Babylon. I think until this new theory was developed in the last few years, I was beginning to think that they were just a flight of romantic imagination.
Meanwhile, ancient Babylon continues to be restored by archaeologists. Perhaps someday it will be possible to confirm the location of the real hanging gardens. It was said that the light from this gigantic tower, the lighthouse at Alexandria, caused ships to burst into flames 30 miles out to sea. The Mediterranean Sea has always beckoned the traveler with the lure of adventure, trade, and wealth. But in the ancient world, as now, the life of the seafarer was often shadowed by danger and death. Waters could easily turn hostile. The weather could become treacherous. Deadly submerged rocks could easily tear through a ship's hull. Navigational aids did not exist. By day, mariners followed visible landmarks. By night, they relied upon the stars. What sailors feared most was the flat, undistinguished coastline of northern Egypt. Here, perilous currents and invisible sandbanks were a death trap for the unwary. Many ships and many lives were lost. This was the site of one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Pharos Lighthouse at the port of Alexandria. Nothing of the structure remains today, but the city's Kite Bay fortress stands on what is believed to be the foundations of the lighthouse, the most powerful artificial light in the ancient world. The Pharos lighthouse not only warned ships away from the dangerous coastline, but was a welcome beacon for weary travelers. It was a symbol of promise, of safety, and of survival. It stood guard outside the busy port of Alexandria, the world's first city of more than 1 million inhabitants. Constructed of white marble, the lighthouse towered 440 feet, or over 30 stories high, enclosing an extensive interior network of corridors, ramps, and stairways. It was an unmistakable landmark.
The lighthouse was a real skyscraper. It seems to have been built of marble, or faced with marble at least, and it was in several stages with a lantern on the top. It would have been the largest roofed building before the skyscrapers started to be built in American cities early this century.
By day, mirrors reflected sunlight from the top of the tower. By night, however, the lighthouse became a true wonder to behold. A flame was lit, producing a beam of light of extraordinary power. But how did the light work? What kind of fuel did it use?
I don't think that they could use timber, because timber was imported in Egypt. But we don't know exactly the source of energy. We don't know if it was wood or oil again. And so we have no precise indications, only suppositions.
Egypt has always had a shortage of timber, and so wood was unlikely to be in great supply. They may have used something else like animal dung. We don't know how the light was created. We do know that it was intensified by the use of a mirror in some way, probably a sheet of polished bronze or brass. One ancient writer, who may well be near the truth, tells us that it could be seen 30 miles out at sea. Then you get other writers who begin to exaggerate and start telling us it could be seen from 300 miles away or even further.
Storytellers provided fantastic accounts about the qualities and nature of the light. Tales were told of a beam so intense that it could incinerate a ship 30 miles out at sea. The larger-than-life legend of the light burned brightly in the minds of all who knew it. It shone for nearly 1,700 years before it was extinguished by a series of violent earthquakes during the 14th century. Most of the structure collapsed into the sea. Scholars believe some of the original building material can still be found in the walls of the military fortress that now guards the entrance to Alexandria. Recent diving expeditions to the harbor floor have brought up pieces of statuary, providing a hint of what may still lie beneath the waves. Meanwhile, the Pharos Lighthouse, like all the 7 ancient wonders, continues to exert a mesmerizing hold.
Why the 7 wonders of the ancient world still fascinate us today is the fact that they're all created by human beings. They are human creations of such imagination, of such breadth of scale, of such vision, and of such artistic and technical competence that we can appreciate them even some 2,000 to 3,000 years later.
Why they have survived